Can you believe it? We are quickly approaching that first day of school, and it can be a really hard transition for a lot of people. Maybe you're going into grade 1, maybe you're going to college or university. So let's break this down. Joining me now to discuss, Professor Steve Joordens with the University of Toronto. Thank you so much for being here.
Great to be with you, Melanie.
There are always nerves. There's nerves for the students, there's nerves for the parents and caregivers. Let's begin with two segments of the population, the K to 12, because they are dealing with, coming off of this routine where maybe there weren't those bedtimes, maybe rules were a little bit looser, but now they're going into the school year thinking, uh-oh, now what, right? What are some big pieces of advice that you can give when it comes to getting back into that process?
Yeah, I mean, I think for everybody to realize it is, just as you described, transition. Transition's an important word, and it's a transition of habits. Going from a relatively unstructured summer, like you said, when you get up when you want, you go to bed when you want, et cetera, to a much more structured way of living, and one that requires the student to have a lot more control over their own behavior, to study ahead of time for tests, to get that project started. And so there's a whole lot of self-control that's involved, and the student does have to get from this sort of freedom of summer to the structure of the classwork, and that can be difficult for both the students and their parents.
No doubt. It's not going to happen overnight. It always happens where that first week is difficult. You're very tired, and then you're overloaded, feeling like, oh my goodness, I have so much to do. But one really important piece here is the idea of positive reinforcement. How does this play into the overall landscape?
Yeah, I mean, the way I like to think of it is this. The student is now at school, and they have these challenges they have to meet. And sometimes they're going to meet them well. They're going to prepare for that project in time, get it done in time, get a good grade back. Other times, things are going to go wrong. And sometimes the parents have a tendency to focus on the latter when things go wrong, and they give the child a hard time. Why didn't you study for that test, etc.? But that brings a whole bunch of negative emotion into all of this. And a much better approach is to really seize on those times when things go right. When the student does do everything well, to really praise them and say, wow, that was really great. You got that project done. You really showed a lot of maturity pulling that off. I'm really proud of you. Doing those things, rewarding when they do things right, really supports habit growth much better than punishing when things go wrong. And so that's the one thought I would have people carry with them over the next few weeks.
That's a really good piece of advice for parents, because it is easier to go the other way, right? Why didn't you get that A? Why didn't you study for that test? So really good advice there. Steve, in the post-secondary world, we know a lot of college and university students moving into their dorm rooms. So there's that anxiety that exists just in that state alone. But there's so much going on. U of T doing some research as of late, and some of it can be a bit troubling.
Yeah, I mean, we've found out, for example, that the average student coming into university has 0.5 friends there. So that means that a lot of students have no friends. They're coming completely alone. And we also know, we've measured the social anxiety of students, and it's very high. The average level of social anxiety is really at that cutoff level for a therapeutic intervention. And so, these are a bunch of students who have trouble speaking to each other face-to-face, real time. They're so used to text messaging as a way of communicating, and they find it very stressful. And, now they're going into an environment where they know nobody, and there's all these opportunities around them to meet new friends, but they have difficulty doing it. And so, yeah, we are now kind of taking it upon ourselves to say we have to help the students make some connections. And one of the priorities this fall is a number of interventions we have. First, to make students understand how important social health is. It's the underpinning of physical health and mental health. If you get those, 3 or 4 or 5 good friendships, you're going to be in much better shape. You're going to be much happier. So it's partly the information, but we're also using AI in interesting ways to allow students to gain the practice interacting with others without all of the fear that they currently bring into those interactions. AIs don't breed the fear. And so it's a good opportunity to create practice spaces for them to learn how to have good conversations with other human beings.
Yeah, indeed, because I think about the role that, I have a lot of friends who have kids who are in high school, going to university, and they text, right? They text and they message, and they don't often meet up with their friends, and it's very different to have that face-to-face interaction, especially in a living environment, if that is brand new to you. So many great tips. Professor Steve Joordens, I wish we had more time with you, but this is all incredible. Wishing you the best of luck with back to school as well.
Thank you, Melanie, and all the best to you.